Your identity is your perception of yourself, and as well as the world's perception of you. So your identity comprises of a few things. First is the physical, your gender, your skin color, the color of your eyes, your ethnic group. And your identity also comprises of your interpretation of all the things you've heard about yourself when you were growing up, through society, through school, religious organizations. So your identity is quite complex. It comprises of a whole series of things. And of course, your identity is also how the world perceives you. But none of these are carved in stone. I think even gender, we've seen how fluid that can be. So your identity is important because it's what gives you the sense of belonging. You can identify with certain groups of people right off the bat. So our identity gives us a sense of belonging. But identity can also cause groups of people to distance themselves from other groups of people if they feel that somehow their values or their identity may be threatened by these groups of people who might not hold the same characteristics, let's say, or the same values. So while identity is really good and it gives you your sense of self, and a strong identity gives you a strong sense of self, be careful that it's not a rigid sense of identity or a rigid sense of self, because it's still subject to interpretation. If you want to make any change at all in your life, whether it's in your relationships or whether it be at work, a new career goal, whether it could be wanting to change some of your habits in regard to your health, whether it's your desire to have more wealth, whatever it is you want to change, you can only make lasting change when you actually change that aspect of your identity. So we are where we are, and we are who we are because of who we believe ourselves to be. So the only way to make lasting change is to actually address that aspect of your identity. I mean, it's no wonder that you get people winning the lottery and becoming bankrupt. If it's people who've never had a lot of money, unless you change the way you perceive yourself, winning the lottery might just result in you losing that money. So for lasting change to happen, whether it's in your health, your lifestyle, whatever it is, you need to address the core, which is your identity around that particular issue. So you hear people say, there's no way I'm going to ever be slim because all the women in my family were not or are not slim. And, or, this is the way we always did it. Or this is what I believe. And identity is so complex, and it's interesting because the hardest thing to change is one's sense of self or one's identity. I mean, people cling on to their identity. How dare you question this, They cling on to this identity, even if it's not serving them, but it's what they know. And it's how they've identified themselves. So unless you change those aspects of your identity that are not working in alignment with what you're hoping to achieve or with a better way of being, unless you change your identity, whatever you try to change is not going to last or is quite unlikely that it will last. And so even affirmations, statements of affirmations are most effective when it's in alignment with actually changing the way you perceive yourself in regard to those affirmations. Rather than I'm trying to get healthy, I am healthy. And I know it might sound like there'll be this resistance because you've never done it, but start to look at yourself, really start to question your identity, start to look at yourself, and then take action to align with that identity. But till you change the way you see yourself, everything else is going to be a lot more difficult. And also when it comes to manifesting, it's more effective when you manifest from a way of being rather than just from a way of doing. So you have to manifest as if you're already there. And it sounds strange, but until you change the way you look at yourself, it's very hard to really allow for long-term transformation in any way. So what aspects of yourself, or what aspects of how you see yourself, do you think need tweaking? And the best part about identity or taking ownership is because when you take full responsibility for who you are and who you want to be, it's very liberating, but it's also incredibly empowering. So my challenge to you is to look at aspects of your identity which you think could do with a revisit or a tweaking. Things maybe your parents said about who you were, or maybe society said about who you were. I'm from the South, hence this, or because don't forget, how you perceive yourself also affects the way you perceive other people. And it could inhibit a lot of, how we grow as a community and as a society, until we're able to look at how we can change some of the way we look at things and ourselves. It's hard to change anything else. And that's my challenge to you and for myself, is that to look at how you perceive yourself and see what can be changed.